Hello, this is Ryan,
And I'm Katie.
and you guys are listening to The List. Thanks for joining us. How are you today, Kat?
I'm doing so good. Actually, I'm already struck by how professional the podcast is when you're the one doing the intro. Already, we'd be on some random tangent were it my turn to intro the episode.
Mm,
You get straight down to business. How are you, Ryan?
I'm good. I'm good. I wanted to be the first to congratulate you
Oh my gosh, on what?
on your delivery
Oh,
of the 10th episode of our podcast.
yes, slay, slay.
Milestone. Congratulations.
You guys, 10 episodes. Congratulations to you, Ryan. I like how
Thank you. Couldn't
we're
have done it
talking
without
to
you.
I know you. That's true. You couldn't have, at least not with as much color, I'd say.
This is definitely true. Definitely true.
My favorite
So,
thing we do, I think, is talking to each other like acquainted coworkers. How's your day going, Ryan? It's fine, Katie, who is my partner of 16 years.
let's go to the water cooler.
Let's go walk to the water cooler and discuss the weather.
So we've watched. This is our 10th film.
Yeah.
Do you think that the? I don't know. I feel like before all of this happened, you would have never sat down and watched a movie that was over 10 years old.
Well, can we just qualify that by saying I never would have sat down and watched a movie?
That's probably true too.
I don't like movies. I don't like sitting for that long. I don't like being quiet for that long. I don't like paying attention to one thing for that long. I don't like sitting for a movie, and this has fully changed the way I watch movies.
Do you think it's the experiences open your mind up to some of these older movies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will not. I will watch black and white movies now. Before it was, if you had suggested a black and white movie, it would be like Dread. Oh, I don't want to sit through that. I don't want to watch that. Kind of like a kid when you tell them they have to have something other than chicken fingers and French fries. But then they try it and they're like, oh, okay, actually that was delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good.
So I do think it's been an awesome experience, and I think that we can cut this part out if you want, but I think that some people may not understand why we decided to like randomly just do a podcast. But I think that if you don't do things with purpose in life, it flies by you so quickly. And so it's just so fun to have something intentional that you're doing and a podcast that kind of keeps you committed to it. Now we have to sit down and watch the movies, and we have to sit down and talk to each other about them, whether anybody's listening or not. It's just something we do together. And I think whether it was movies or going somewhere to do something or reading a book or whatever, just doing something like this has been so interesting and fun. So
yeah, I know when we started this, we said we don't really care if anybody else listens to it except us.
Yeah.
And because it was really just something fun for us to do together.
Yeah.
And then we get to talk about it, break it down and have a cool little conversation about it afterwards. And I think for me, that's been the best part.
Yeah.
It doesn't really, we still like people to listen to it, but if not, it's something fun for us to have and look back on, who knows, 20 years from now, if this type of media is even around.
It's like when people got into the business of taking VHS tapes and burning them to CDs for you. Do you remember that? And now that's outdated. So yeah, you're right. People will be converting it to watch our groundbreaking podcast.
It'll be an implant you put in your brain and you just upload it. But 10th film, The Great Dictator, starring Charlie Chaplin. I have a confession. I did not know Charlie Chaplin was in any other type of movie except a silent film.
I don't think I had ever
Did you?
even seen his face before. Like I had, but other than in like a still. I had never seen him in anything other than a still photo. So I knew nothing about him. Oh, but I did actually, I take that back. I knew that Pam Beesly dressed up as him
For Halloween.
for Halloween. Actually, that's so funny now that I think about it because she takes her hat off and she's like, if I don't wear my hat, I look like Hitler. And now we watched a Charlie Chaplin movie about Hitler.
Well, no, it's
Small
not about
world.
Hitler. It's about
No.
Adenoid Hinckley, who
Hinckley.
looks suspiciously like Adolf Hitler, but no relation.
This speaking of groundbreaking, this movie is groundbreaking in that it started those little disclaimers in the beginning of movies.
Yeah.
This is not after anyone living, if it bears any resemblance to anyone living or dead. No, it does not.
It's a /incident.
But no, I had not ever seen him in anything before. I feel like this is one of those moments where we were misquoting Robert De Niro, and people are going to be like, "Are you guys idiots?" Oh, I'm walking here.
Oh,
we were
gotcha.
misquoting him. Yeah, Charlie Chaplin in speaking roles, and everybody's like, "Yeah, duh." But
well, all I knew really about him is he's a really famous silent film actor. I didn't know that he was in any other film that had sound, and this one does. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who haven't seen The Great Dictator, it is the first, actually on our list, is the first pure comedy that's been on the list so far. It's a satire. It is about a dictator who suspiciously looks like Adolf Hitler. And his name is Adenoid Hinckley. Hinky. And also about a Jewish barber who looks identical to this Hinky character.
And is also played by Charlie
Chaplin. And the interesting thing is that he actually wrote and directed and starred in this film. I didn't know that until we started it. And it basically keeps going back and forth. This is a satire.
It's giving Tyler Perry.
Oh, with as many characters as he plays.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a satire. Basically, it's jumping back and forth between this Jewish barber and I'm just going to call him AH because I keep messing up his name. The dictator.
Yeah, just say the dictator.
Just a bunch of ridiculous scenes that were pretty hilarious. Like, there was a couple just outrageous, absurd scenes where I just laughed out loud at how ridiculous it was. One of the very opening scenes where they start off in World War I with the Jewish barber, and they start off and showing all these like little cannons shooting at the people in the trenches, and then they have this probably the largest prop I've seen in a movie this old of this giant artillery gun, and then the way they trigger it is he pulls this little string.
It was cute.
And it shoots and blows up an outhouse. And then the next one's a dud. And just a lot of gags kind of like that. And there's a lot of physical comedy, which makes sense because he's a silent film star. But man, he is so good at it.
Funny. His timing is so good. You don't think about his timing. It's good. He's really good.
Oh, it's beyond good. It's really amazing. Yeah. I see why he's a big deal.
Yeah. Most people are mediocre at a whole lot of things. And then there are people who are really, 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 really good at something. And that's him in physical comedy. Mm-hmm. Just comedy in general, I think. And then obviously writing because he wrote and directed it. It was great. He's funny.
And there's one other scene that really stood out for me, and I don't think there's any words spoken during that scene. And it's the scene where the dictator is kind of alone by himself in the office, and he has this globe of the earth.
Oh my gosh.
And he takes it out, and it's actually a balloon.
Yeah.
And he's just playing with the balloon in his office all by himself. Like,
it's so absurd.
He's wanting to
so funny.
rule the world with this little balloon globe.
Yeah.
It is hilarious. And there's not a single word spoken.
doing an interpretive dance and
Uh-huh.
bouncing the balloon around, and like it literally turns into an interpretive dance. And then the balloon pops and he like pouts, and
Yeah.
it was so
So
clever
funny.
and
So funny.
so funny.
Hmm. And there's a lot of little moments like that, but those are the ones that kind of stuck out the most to me that I thought were just
Yeah.
absolutely pure genius.
I just think it's so interesting how he used comedy to make such an intense political statement, to make such an utter fool of a man who committed genocide and tried to ruin the world. He was pure evil. To take a man that is pure evil and make him a joke and a laughing stock and a character who's just so stupid and stumbling into taking over the world and is just an utter joke.
Imbecile.
What an
Yeah.
interesting way to uh take power over a situation like that, and have social commentary that um is poignant. And there's so many moments in the movie that were so poignant and caught me off guard. But overall, just the way he managed to use comedy to talk about atrocity and make it something you want to watch and you enjoy. It just was an interesting way to help a lot of people understand with and maybe even cope with something horrible that happened, I guess.
Yeah. That's one of the things I did want to talk about is that there were some moments where they're flashing into the ghettos
Yeah.
where it was a little more serious. And I feel
Yeah.
like the lightheartedness of the satire part with the dictator and then flashing over into a few little scenes where there's some fights, they burn the barber shop down, and then it eventually leads to the mass killing of the Jews in the ghettos there. It made them like even though they weren't very long scenes, it made them feel so much more serious because you went from
Yeah.
this light to this like heavier thing. And I think that really sets it up for the very end
And
scene
yeah.
of the movie, which is a speech given by the dictator, which is probably one of the most poignant speeches I've ever heard.
Well, not given by the dictator, given by
Oh, by the Jewish barber who's taken the
who's
dictator's
taken the place
place.
of the dictator. Yeah.
Yes.
So I find, just thinking about that, the jokes and the poking fun and the making a fool of was always directed towards the scenes with the dictator. That's
Yes.
where the like tomfoolery was. That's where the isn't this guy an idiot was. But then you switch over to the ghetto and to the Jews being persecuted, and none of that. There's no poking fun at the people who are the underdogs and the people who are being, you know,
There's some slapstick comedy stuff there, but
but
it's
still,
underlined with a more serious thing because this is,
yeah.
this is a genocide thing that's going on
So
here.
again, what a way to take control, and a way to like, I don't know. I feel like wow, it was
I did read that Charlie Chaplin said that if he had realized the seriousness of some of the things that were going on in the ghetto, he probably would not have made this film.
really,
Yeah, but it's interesting, and the end speech because it's not really acting; it's a speech at the end.
mm-hmm.
I mean, you're looking dead on at the character, and he's looking directly into the camera, and you realize about 10 seconds into the speech that he's no longer he's
Acting. This
talking to
is
the
social
audience.
commentary. It's social
And
commentary at the end.
yeah, and there's a lot of people who actually have been saying this is one of the greatest speeches ever written. And it's interesting to me that a man who's famous for never speaking gives one of the greatest speeches of all time, according to some. And I just remember sitting there, and because it keeps jumping back and forth, it's lighthearted to serious, just like tears streaming down my face as I'm listening to this this speech. it was that moving.
And combined with the speech, there's a character, I can't remember her name. He says her name a bunch of times at the end. Can you hear me? Oh, what's her name?
Starts with a K. Katrina. I can't remember.
Let's find out. Hannah.
Oh, not Katrina at
Can
all.
you hear me, Hannah? And so Hannah is a Jewish woman who's been run out of her home and finds a new home. And they're like saying the names of cities where Hitler invaded, but they're saying them in like cartoony ways where you know exactly where they're talking about, but they're not saying it. So she's found a home and she's happy, and then Hitler invades her new home, and she's really down, and she's really just having such a rough time, and she's outside where she can hear his speech. And so it will cut from the Jewish barber's speech as the dictator. So he's taken his place at this point, and he's given this really powerful speech about how, don't just be a mindless soldier. There's hope. There's human inside of us all. And he
I
starts
think we're going to
going,
play it at the end here.
yeah. So he's speaking directly to Hannah because he loves her. They have a little romance in the movie. And she's outside where she can hear the speech, and it just cuts between this really intense headshot of the Jewish barber and then back to Hannah. And it's just such a beautiful shot to watch her go from absolutely dejected to kind of starting to feel hope, and then to absolutely feeling hope and just looking off into the distance.
Yeah.
The ending was great.
They even have her like, because the Tomanian soldiers, stormtroopers come in and beat her to the ground. And when she starts to hear his speech, she gets up and is looking out into the sky, hopeful. It's really, really beautiful. And I think the whole film was set up for that moment, and it did its job. It was very touching. So I was wondering, we kind of skipped around a little bit. I was wondering what acting you would score it.
It's a different, man, I don't know. I'm going to actually give it a 9.5 because I feel like everybody was great, but also seeing him switch so quickly between playing the fool and then playing a really serious role, and then at the end just going like all in on just full, like wholeheartedly giving the speech. And I think that a lot of times when you see somebody play two characters, it's extra funny, or I don't know, but I thought it was balanced so well. They were two different characters to me. It wasn't the same man, like it wasn't a Medea situation. You know what I mean? It was a really serious, well done, well balanced. I don't know. I thought it was great. I think the acting is a 9.5 for me.
Charlie Chaplin was definitely the main actor, and most of this rating is probably based on him. Just this pure physicality of his comedic genius. That part is a 10 to me. I don't think I've seen anybody do what he does physically on film. Even today, I don't think anybody holds a candle to him. I can't think of anybody. So as far as that goes, 10, and then just the acting, the verbal communication part of it, it's a high up there too for me. So if I had to blend the two, I'd probably say 9.5 as well.
It's difficult for me to judge the acting of anybody but Charlie Chaplin in this because he really stole the show.
Yeah.
But also there was, and I mean, there were some over the top acting moments, but they were supposed to be that way. It was physical comedy. It was comedy, period. It was almost slapstick sometimes. And
it was.
Yeah. So I think, I'm sticking with my 9.5.
Okay. Story. It's not a typical story. It kind of bounces around a little bit, just to get some of the shticks in there, where they're just poking fun at AH, the dictator.
Yeah.
And so storyline probably a little weaker on my side, maybe 7.5, 8.
I think I'm going to say the same, especially because there were just some times where it was just too long for me. I thought some things just went on it was just too long. Like there were a couple of
Okay.
times where I was like, I get it. You don't have to keep hammering it in. I get it.
Okay.
We can move on to the next scene. So I would say story 2. Yeah, I would say I'd give it like a 7.5.
And then cinematography. I thought there was some pretty big elements for this movie to be as old. There's like huge explosions in this scene, like some really crazy props. That artillery gun is probably the biggest prop that I saw, along with a couple other ones. I think it's up there cinematography wise. I'm gonna give it. I think I'm gonna give it an 8.
We keep giving the same scores today, and it's not because I'm stealing your scores. We're just on the same page with it. I think I would say probably an 8 as well.
Yeah.
I really liked the big crowd scenes. I liked the dancing with the balloon scene was filmed well.
One thing I didn't
The
mention was how good he is at imitating speech
oh
without
gosh,
saying a single
yeah,
word of sense.
He's not speaking any language, but
He's
he
not
sounds like
speaking-
he's speaking a language. But I did notice how funny was it to you when you would
And when he
be
starts
listening to him
coughing,
speak German?
yeah, and it sounded like he was still speaking German or
Yeah, but
Tomanian. Excuse me.
how funny did you find it when he would be speaking and then he would slip in stuff like schnitzel and you're like, you just said schnitzel.
Yeah.
And I also thought it was funny the little bit they did where he would say something really, really, really long and then the translator would be like, he says thank you. Yeah. And you're like, he just spoke. And that's another way that I feel like it went on so long. Like there were some bits that I was like, okay, buddy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It would go on forever. And so
Mhm.
we'd kind of do the same stuff over and over again. But I'm telling you, you would sit there for an entire minute of film and listen to him speak in this made up language for an entire minute. And then she would go, thank you. He
Mhm.
says, thank you for coming.
Yeah.
So it was funny. It was really funny. Yeah. We were judging the cinematography. Maybe more like a 7.5, but
Okay. And then wow factor. I think this had a really powerful wow factor on a lot of levels, just because there's some scenes that pretty big, explosions, the props, the comedic genius of all this stuff that was done puts that wow factor high up for me. And then just the powerful message at the end is a big wow factor for me as well. So I'm thinking probably 8.9.
I feel like I have to change mine now.
No, you don't have to.
Mine's an 8. 8 is the number I settled on in my mind. And it's because of the physical comedy, the balance of comedy with a delicate handling of a serious real life situation, and the speech at the end really upped the wow factor for me. By the time we got to the end, I was over the movie. I don't know if you felt the same way, but it was too long. It went on
It
for
was
too
long. It was
long. There's a
over
lot of
2
stuff that I
hours.
feel like could have been cut. And it wasn't like it was 2 hours of this all needs to be here. It was 2 hours of this is really funny. And then he does it for 5 more minutes. So I felt like there were a couple of times where I wish it would have been shorter. And so by the time we got to the end, I was over the movie. And I was like, okay, this has been good. I liked it. And then we got to the speech. It reeled me straight back in. I was glued to the screen.
Yeah,
I could have watched him for another hour. It's like the moment you have when you're watching a play where you're starting to get antsy in your seat, and so they have, I think that's what an 11 o'clock number is, I don't know, but they have that number that like pops you back in and grabs you again, and it's like, hey, I know we've been talking for a while, but let's get your attention again. That's how I felt at the end. I felt riveted, and that's a wow factor for me to be able to pull an audience in after 2 hours and grab them back up at the end and leave them with an impression. That was the wow factor for me.
Okay. Is this a top 100 film?
Yes.
I think it is. It's unique from anything that we've seen in a lot of ways.
Is it a bucket list movie? I don't know about that. I don't have a yes or a no answer for that.
It's close. I'm on the border. I'm on the fence on this one. I would say,
a bucket list movie to me is, I don't care how much time you have. I don't care what you have going on in your life. Make the time to watch this movie is what a bucket list movie is to me. And this movie is more, it's a really good movie and you should watch it if you can find the time. So I feel like it's just on the cusp of.
It's on the cusp.
Almost there.
On the cusp.
But I don't know that it's.
Highly recommended, but
yes.
If you know, there is one movie to pick before you die, you know, that you had to see, this would probably not be it. No. But like I said,
is it
on the
worthwhile
cusp,
to watch? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's great.
Is it a good movie? Yeah. Are you going to be glad you watched it? Yes. But I don't think it's a bucket list movie.
All right. Let's, I want to do the little speech.
Okay.
For everybody to watch and listen to. And so I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll rank our movie after that. Sound good? Okay.
Yeah.
So here is the end speech by Charlie Chaplin.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent, and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die. And the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes. Men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
I think one of the things that's so striking about it is you don't expect it. It still is kind of a funny tone up until this. He's trying to escape and he comes across the very last checkpoint, and instead of being able to escape, they take him for the dictator, and he's kind of thrust into this weird situation where he's having to pretend to be the dictator, and then he's up on stage, and then he's going to have to give a speech, and the tone of it is kind of still funny up until then. And so you expect him to get up there, and is he going to say something
ridiculous?
Is he going to make a joke? Is it going to be, you don't know what to expect. And then he starts into what you just heard, and you're, I don't know, you're gripped by it.
Yep. And I still think this speech is relevant today. It's kind of strange that this speech is that old, and I think it still rings true in today's world. So, great
They
film.
would have had the Hannah part in there. That's my favorite part, where he starts talking to her.
Towards the end.
It was a great film. Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. So looking forward to it. And I think we have some more Charlie Chaplin movies on the list. I think those might be silent films, though. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll find out.
All right, I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show you where I rate it.
Okay.
Okay. Definitely above Maltese Falcon, North by Northwest, above Yankee Doodle Dandy, above Taxi Driver. I'm going to say above Rear Window, so I'm putting it at number 5.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good to know.
I knew it was going to be at least number 7. I knew it would be at least above Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yeah.
After that, I wasn't
it's up
sure.
there.
But thinking about it, yeah, I'm putting it above. Actually,
Rear Window.
I think I'm switching these two, and I'm going to actually make it number 6. I think overall, Rear Window is a better movie. I think I was so emotionally touched by the ending in The Great Dictator that it almost put it above for me, but I actually think I'm going to leave it at number 6.
Okay. Cool. All right, let me share mine. I think, Maltese Falcon's coming down, Taxi Driver's coming down, Third Man's coming down, North by Northwest coming down, Yankee Doodle Dandy. I think I'm going to put this at 5 for me. Just below Rear Window, Rebel Without a Cause, Wuthering Heights, and Double Indemnity still got the number 1 slot. I think this film is more enjoyable than those other ones below. So 5 is where it stands now.
Next week we get to start knocking some of them off.
Yeah, it's gonna get tough here because some of them are gonna leave the list, right? Our top 10. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what chaos that causes.
Yeah.
But as we've gotten further into the list, for the most part, the movies have
gotten better,
been getting better. There's
I
still
agree.
been a couple in there that I've been like, why are you on here?
Yeah.
But the caliber of the films is lifting as we progress through the list.
I'm so ready to get through the next 5, because then we get into a little
more modern day movies.
Modern movies that I'm excited about.
Thank you guys for joining us on our 10th episode. It's a mile marker for us. We appreciate you listening. I'm Ryan.
I'm Katie.
And thank you for listening to The List.